Hello guys and welcome to the Big Screen Podcast. Today we are going back to a film franchise that we reviewed a few weeks ago. Talking of which, I have to make an apology before we do start and get introduced to the guests. A few weeks ago, I made a statement. And the statement was that the visual quality of Dune was impaired because of the quality of the film. That is false. I went to the cinema today and I know it's the same issue, but with Eternals. So I would like to make a massive apology for saying that Dune looked bad, because it wasn't, it was the film screen. Okay, so today I am with Dominic J. Martin. How are you, Dom?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing very well. This is the first time we've actually on like a laid-back podcast, I think. Like before, it's always been game shows where I just get shouted at for a good reason, to be fair. But yeah, this is more laid back. So to summarize you're Dominic J. Martin. You're a male. You're from the United Kingdom. Well,
thank you. That's very broad.
Yes, you are a YouTuber, a chaser, technically, the doctor, technically, a panelist, and an event goer. And considering all the charity work you've done, I suppose I can call you a podcaster as well.
Hooray.
Yes, but yeah, we've worked together many times, so if you guys don't know who Dom is, where the hell have you been? But yeah, that sums up Dom very well. But Matt, he's a YouTuber, and he has met the biggest flex of them all, Bambino Becky. How was it me and
many
her?
Times.
Many times.
Becky, a good friend. Me and Becky, a good friend, yeah. Becky's brilliant. Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Stokes. Nice to meet you all. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pass me your number, please.
I'll text it to you now. I'll text you Becky's as well.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, Matt is on because it was originally just going to be Dom, but I put out the audience interaction tweet, like collecting responses, and then Matt came out of the blue. Well, not out of the blue, because you have posted on our Twitter page many times, and I thought, you know what? First of all, you're giving a different opinion to me, so I think the contrast of opinions would be nice. Second of all, you have posted quite a bit on the Twitter channel, so I thought, why not have you on for an episode? So again, it is a pleasure to have you. And
thank you.
I'm looking forward to reviewing Halloween Kills with you both, because again, we did review it with Michael a few weeks ago, and we reviewed 1978 Halloween and also 2018 Halloween, which is the two prequels to this. I have not watched the franchise. I was meaning to watch the sequel to, like the original sequel to Halloween, like the 1981 version, but I never got around to it because I was going to have like a discussion about like which sequel is better. Or least worse, I suppose. But have you guys watched the franchise, and to what extent?
I've had experience with the franchise. I have seen the first Halloween movie, but I've read a lot about the ones afterwards, because when it comes to me, I love like reading about terrible sequels that I'm probably never going to watch, and that can kind of describe a lot of the back half of the original Halloween franchise. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously, we've got so many different timelines now, because you've got the Jamie Lloyd stuff, and then you've got the Rob Zombie stuff. There is so much, and now you've got this new reboot timeline. It's a really disjointed. It's a miracle that people are still keeping up with it, because you could very easily be confused. I don't think there's really been many cases where a franchise has rebooted itself, then jumped back to the original continuity while still eliminating the rest of it. It is quite an achievement.
I'll just chuck out this question for you, Don, before I do ask Matt the same question. What sequel do you prefer, the 1981 version or this? And by this, I actually meant the 2018 version.
But then again, when you think about it, there's about 3 different Halloween 2s. I mean, God, it's all in Halloween. I mean, if you think about it too much, it will make your head hurt.
Because it's like Marvel levels of just like numbers, because there's 25 films
about that,
franchises. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I'm not looking forward to watching it, especially when about 90% aren't like well popular at all. Like they're all bad, and I just think, I can't be bothered. But just for the sake of completion, you know.
Yeah, I know. That's me with the Hellraiser franchise. At least about. We've reached the point where 7 out of the 10 movies are bad, but I'm gonna watch them all eventually.
Yeah. it's the same with James Bond. I reviewed it a few weeks ago, and I was like, straight onto Amazon. I'll buy the box set and I'll crack it open, and I'll like watch a movie every week. And then I haven't done that yet. It's still up in my bedroom without being opened, but I will eventually get through all the James Bond franchise just for the sake of completion, because I loved No Time to Die, loved Skyfall, loved Casino Royale. We won't talk about Quantum of Solace, but the others, yeah, fantastic. So Matt, how about you? What's your like experience with the franchise?
So I am obviously part-time Doctor Who nerd, but also I'm a big time horror film fan. So all the classic films in particular, I absolutely love. Halloween is probably my favourite horror film. Slash film, whatever.
Do you like Hellraiser? Do you like Hellraiser?
You know what? I've never seen it now. Would you recommend it?
Extremely recommended. Do check it out. I think you'll like it.
Okay, let me jot it down. So yeah, Halloween is up there for me. I absolutely love it. Every year I get obsessed with Halloween. So yeah, I've seen all films. The Rob Zombie, the originals, the new ones. I absolutely love them all. How about now?
That is perfect. That is fab, actually. So yeah, Halloween Kills. It's a new film, part of the franchise. It follows on from the 2018 version, and of course the 1978 version, and is a part of a trilogy, a remake, reboot trilogy, I suppose. Even though it's like a quadruple of films in this continuity, but this is a trilogy from something Green. I'm gonna quickly Google his name. What's the director's name, guys?
That's a very good question.
David
Gordon Green.
There we go.
David Gordon Green. So yeah, he's making this trilogy. I really like the 2018 version. This film, not so much, but he will be releasing the 2022 movie next year, of course, towards the end of the year. And this film does set up a lot of that towards the end, I suppose. But again, I'm not really looking forward to it after watching this. But I know we have opposing views there. So I'll start with my first note. I have went chronologically this time, unlike most weeks. So my first note really is the movie starts with Dylan Arnold on the phone talking to his deceased friend about a relationship souring, but the plot for that goes absolutely nowhere. I do like his performance across the film. Surprisingly fun for such a horrific film, but he balanced the emotions of goofy and seriousness really well. Also, did we ever see the deceased friends that had his head put through the spike in the previous film again? Like, we saw the cutaway, but I don't think that goes anywhere.
No, I don't think we did, no.
No, right. No.
Yeah, and it's really weird because, like, the officer, Hawkins, who was found, like, the guy who died on the spike wasn't even that far away, so not even to get, like, a bit of dialogue to say that he had been found, like as a throwaway line. It just felt really odd, especially since we had the cutaway to him. But yeah, the opening sequence, fine. But Frank Hawkins, as I did say, he turns out to be alive still. And we find this out by Cameron, Dylan's character, just touching him, which seems to be a recurring thing in this film, I found. Want to revive someone from the dead? Just touch them.
Just a touch of life.
Yes. Not even resuscitation, which I thought they were going to go for, because he was just like playing around with his like outfit. And I thought, oh, he's going to perform resuscitation, which was seem odd anyway, because he's got blood coming out of his neck. But then all of a sudden,
literally saw him die in the last film.
Exactly. And then you have the woman later who gets a bloody light shoved through her neck, and then she's still alive to see her husband get stabbed. And I just
yeah.
It just takes away the horror of Michael Myers, because I'll touch upon it later, but the thing that like pulls us into the franchise, I think, is Laurie being stalked by Michael and our relationship with Laurie. So to have like the doctor tell Myers where to go, and it removes that kind of speciality or whatever, so it removes that special connection. And also when it like presents Michael as a ruthless killer, but then he doesn't kill his victims, or he kills him, or he tries to kill them in a very weird way and doesn't, it just gets rid of like the personality for me. And I think this is a massive step down from the 2018 version because of these weird decisions from the director. What do you guys think?
I have to agree. I felt that a lot of the deaths in this movie were kind of comical, to be honest. There were also a combination of almost god-awful decisions from the characters. Then some of them could have easily have been avoided. Really,
I forgot my stethoscope.
Yeah.
was the most egregious one.
Yeah.
Cliche for like such a film. I wish it was more innovative in that respect. Like going back to a cliche such as that when you're like 2 movies into a trilogy, I just think, come on, it's 2021 or whenever this was filmed. You can do better, you know?
Yeah, you can be a bit cleverer than that. And also there was the woman, I've forgotten her name, but yeah, the woman that got the light shoved in her neck.
Yeah.
She was on the way to escaping. She was on the cusp of escaping, but instead decided, you know what, this man's killed my husband. I think I'll take him on. And that is such a stupid move, seeing as the characters clearly know of the legacy of the Myers. And she just inexplicably decides, it's a one-on-one outside Nando's. Come fuck me, blood. And fails in every single regard. And somehow, as you said earlier, still survives enough to see Michael desecrating the corpse of her husband with repeated knife after knife. And I think it's the reverse of what you said, Will, in the way that it doesn't take away from the personality. It's an attempt to give him personality. That's what makes it fall flat.
Yeah, I think there was a moment in the previous film where I kind of liked something like that, but it gave him a bit of personality in the respect that he could have killed the baby in the 2018 movie, because we hear the crying and then he walks towards the baby crying and you think, oh, he's going to kill the baby. But then he just looks at the baby and then walks away. And and Michael disagreed, but I personally think that's a really good bit of personality building and a great bit of tension. But this film doesn't do that for me. And I completely agree with you. Maybe I just worded it a bit different. We can have 2 different perspectives.
No, depends on what you take.
But we absolutely agree there. Matt, defend it. you like this film?
You know what? I do like this film. You're absolutely right. But I hate to say it. I do agree with you. The deaths were so comical. It was not embarrassing, but embarrassing. One in particular was, as we've all seen it, the girl that shoots herself by mistake.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, she gets shot in the neck.
She was like, it literally opens the door and just like bang. I was like, why is she going back anyway?
I think Michael Myers is like such a badass villain who is like practically unstoppable, if not, like immortal. But that for me did make me think like, people aren't gonna like this, let alone me not like this, who's like a hardcore Halloween fan.
Yeah. Oh my god. But the thing is, we've discussed like the theme of is he immortal before, and I personally think maybe he is. And I know Michael was not keen on the idea at all. But for me, at least in this film, how he escapes from the burning building, because at the end of the last film, it was like, oh crap, surely he can't get out of this situation. But then before I watched it, I saw like the promo picture for Halloween Kills, and it showed him escaping the house that was on fire. So the ending for the film was a bit ruined because I knew he escaped, of course. But I was still interested because I thought like it was going to be like a really easy exit. But this film shows the exit, and it's not, because it's like he's used his surroundings to his advantage. He's not just stood there like surviving the flames. He's actually found a little bit of wall where he can put the shutters down so he can kind of be safe from the fire, which I felt was really good. Even though I do wonder, because I was going to go back to the first 2018 film and see if there was actually space behind the shutter, because the shutter here he opened that he was hid behind, I think that was the guns, like the gun, what do you call it, wall?
The gun locker.
So I don't think there was room enough for a man to be in there, but just the way it was shot in this film, like it supposedly is enough room, because now they can obscure the background and it's not a major focus on the guns, so they can do that. So a bit of continuity there. And by the way, there's going to be a few continuity issues in this review, because my God, there are some really bad ones. The ending in particular actually annoyed me. Like the ending.
Even I'll agree with you on that one.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I really liked about this film initially was having the flashbacks to the Halloween night of 1978. It gave a subplot to the events we didn't see in the timeline. It shows Michael actually being caught and locked away, and we never saw that before. We were only told about it.
Nah.
So yeah, that's a neat callback. And also to the dog killed in the 1978 film, we also see that when the police officers go around his house, we see like the gutted dog which is apparently a theme in the Halloween franchise. And the whole sequence in the house that was on fire, I think was excellently directed, utilizing door arches, not the one on fire, just the Michael's house. I think it was excellently directed, utilizing door arches and holes in the staircase to great effect. And I thought the direction was really impressive in some sequences, and particularly towards the start.
I'm with you on that one. Just going back quickly to first off about him being immortal, like that. That is such an interesting concept with Michael Myers. Now, as Doctor Who fans, you probably get what I mean by this, but like to me, it doesn't seem like he's immortal. It gives me Torchwood Miracle Day vibes, where you just can't die. If you know what I mean, that's what I feel like Michael Myers is more like.
That's the thing. He does take damage. He clearly takes damage, but he just doesn't die. It's kind of like more on the vein of Jason Voorhees in that sort of respect, which I did feel this movie pushed him further in that direction towards, as if this is more of he's Michael, but with the mortality level of Jason.
Yeah, because there's a bit at the end where he's like being beaten to the ground and like
beaten and shot. And taken out.
He just comes back up from the dead and kills them all. And I just think, I like how it was shot. I don't like how it was edited together, but how it was directed and like the redemption kind of story of Michael, I thought was really daunting. And I think some of the kills were really impressive. But I just think, surely if you're in that situation and you have a murderer right there, surely you would just like put multiple bullets in the head. Yeah, that makes me sound like a psychopath. But like you wouldn't like, get like a garden, what do you call it, hoe, and then whack him with it. You'd get a gun.
Their logic and their execution of the whole, beat down was bad, because they just didn't. If this guy was like so dangerous and so deadly, they shouldn't have stopped until that body was destroyed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought that as well. Like decapitated, every limb gone, burnt, in a hole, locked away.
Yeah, because I liked in that sequence, if you do skip to the end quickly, how the police officers were getting involved. Like all of them had just had enough of him, and it just got to the point where he's caused so much damage that like the law can't stop this, and he'd actually get involved with such a horrific like murderer being tortured and killed, and I thought that was cool as well. But jumping back to the start, though, I really liked the first jump scare. Blimey, I'm being really positive about a film I really hate. But yeah, I really like the first jump scare. For now, I promise. See, when we're actually in the Myers house, like see the footprints on the floorboards. And even though Michael must be about 60 now, he absolutely darted out of that wardrobe faster than he had ever done before.
Yeah, that was a good scare.
That as well.
Yeah.
It was really great. But I don't know about you guys, but I slowed it down afterwards. It was because of how it was shot and edited together. I slowed it right down, and it's actually two different shots. One of Michael rushing out and putting his hands on the officer's neck before we get a whip pan to Michael putting the officer up against the wall. So we lose about 2 seconds of time that it would actually have taken in the middle part to get him to the wall. And it made the whole scene go a bit quicker. And I thought it was an excellent scare. And yeah, it really caught me by surprise because it was so fast.
It really was. I'm impressed. Excellently shot scene.
See, that's why I like Michael as a character. Like he is a human being, supposedly. I know he's evil, incarcerated, whatever, but like he is a human being that is just unstoppable, and like he's clearly got some sort of supernatural abilities, but they don't, especially in these new ones, they don't like massively focus on it. I know in the old films they say that the backstory of Michael Myers, whatever, but in these new ones, like he's superhuman, but he shows what like the potential a human body essentially has, and that's what makes him like such a like super killer. Because he is just a person.
I really like how you just described him. Superhuman and kind of immortal, but not immortal at all. And I like it again, I bring it up again, how it does show a few examples of him like using his intuitiveness on how to escape a certain situation as opposed to just escaping for the sake of escaping or surviving for the sake of surviving. Actually gives him a bit of reason to do so. Like there's some moments, of course, at the end where it's literally impossible for a human to survive. But again, there's some moments dotted around the film where you like truly believe, yes, he could be killed, but this is Michael Myers we're on about. And it does make him really scary. And what you just said there about like not really touching upon it, I think that works really well because it's the same with the face. Like no one wants to see Michael Myers' face in a film because having no face just makes it much more scarier. And I think that's the same with like explaining his backstory, his psyche and stuff like that, which the 2018 one did a bit more. That's my take anyway. But yes, as ever, the film offers a slightly different title sequence. I wasn't a huge fan of the multiple pumpkins, but I really did like the shot towards the end of the final pumpkin melting whilst on fire. It was really weird because Halloween Kills and actually having a pumpkin on fire, because pumpkins, of course, resemble Halloween, and Halloween is being killed by the fire. And I thought it was a really good bit of direction as well. Did you guys dig the title sequence at all, or would you prefer some of the other ones?
No, I quite like this one. I thought it was cool. I was trying to, when I watched it, I was trying to figure out, okay, what material are these pumpkins made of?
Yeah. Yeah, because you'd expect them to be like properly melting, but they were melting, but they were going very slowly. Because if you just set like a pumpkin on fire, it would burn instantly, and it wouldn't make for very good film, would it? So yeah, maybe plastic, maybe not. Ooh. What would you say it is? Plastic?
I don't know. It's probably it feels like it might be one of those fire-resistant type of plastics. I don't know the name of, but I imagine it was definitely something that would just make sure that it held long enough for them to get the shots. But after that, it probably would be unusable again.
I should have asked. Where did you guys watch this? In the comfort of your home, or did you go to the cinema?
I went to Brighton and I saw it in the cinema there. So, in the cinema.
Oh, cool. Dom?
Streaming service.
Same. Pirate Bay, same as me? Or did you do it legally?
No, I do it legally. What do you take me for?
Yeah, for legal reasons, we did it legally.
Yeah, for legal reasons.
Yeah, for legal reasons. Why would anyone admit to illegally streaming something on a podcast? Hey, what are they going to do? Let's be honest. What are they going to do?
Well, the thing is, I don't want to tempt them to that, so I'd rather not find out.
True. I was originally going to watch this in the cinema. I was going to do like a triple header with Venom, June, and Halloween Kills, but then I fell ill, so I had to go home, so I couldn't watch Halloween Kills. And that's why I just like did it in the comfort of my home, and mostly because the screenings for the Halloween Kills film, I went right down. Like when it first came out over the Halloween period, there were about 5 showings a day. And this is view one about. So usually their showings are really frequent, but nowadays it's like 1 or 2 screenings per day, and it's like gone right down. And I noticed yesterday actually, because it popped up on my Sky homepage, that's now available on Sky Store. So it seems like the theatrical run is over before it even really began, really, which is unfortunate for them. Like they're not going to get the box office they may have wanted. So,
but still, we've got the third one still confirmed. So I guess it's no great loss to them.
Oh, of course. And of course, streaming services probably will get them a lot of money. I'm not sure what else is on, maybe like Amazon. What did you watch on? What service did you?
What was it called? Peacock or something now?
Peacock, oh, interesting. I have seen that as like an available thing to watch, but I've never like seeked it out to see what it's about.
Yeah, it's Peacock.
Was it 180, like high definition?
Yeah, 1080p.
Is that a service that you pay for?
No, it's all inclusive with Sky.
Oh, really?
Oh, is it? Because I remember wasn't there another service another film that came out? Was it June that came out straight to Peacock? It was like a big major film.
Yeah, I think
unless
so.
It was
it probably was June, to be fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
I remember seeing a lot of people saying about the box.
Yeah, it's available to Sky viewers. There was they made a little show of it today. It was available as an app on the Sky box.
Interesting. So they started advertising it on Sky Store one day, and then they make it available for free the next. What is their strategy here?
Yeah.
What are they trying to do? Yeah, that's odd. But fair enough, you got to watch it for free and legally. I wish I was the same. But yeah. And now to go to the criticisms, one of my biggest criticisms of this, ironically, because I did mention I did like the callbacks to their films. On the contrast, the introduction or reintroductions to the characters we had little to no connection to in the first place. Like, whilst I like the alternative views of the events, I think it absolutely cramps these new characters in. And as the movie goes on, I find it impossible to keep up with who is who and what their motivations are, especially as they're coupled with older characters and other new characters, some with connections to the victims, some not. It's all a bit of a mess, really. And that's to me, personally. I'm not sure about you guys. And I found it really hard because by the end, we honestly were just like watching about 5 white males. And I was just like, who are you? Which one is which? And I just thought, change up the appearance because they just like the typical white man. And I just thought, cast some different people.
Floofy black hair, yeah. There was a particular point where there was this kid with, the gunshot wound, and then you see his mother screaming, and he looked exactly like the other kid who was about to get killed by Michael shortly later. I've forgotten their names entirely. I don't even remember if they were said on screen. They probably were, but did I note them down? No, I didn't. So, yeah, it was... it was interesting because I was closer to losing interest with the story entirely by the end, rather than getting confused by it. It was very messy. It was indeed very messy.
Yeah, like the only real characters I know the names of is, of course, Laurie and Allison, because those are the only two I am remotely interested in.
I remember Karen.
For different reasons. Which one?
Karen.
Karen.
Because the main name.
Karen.
Oh, the mother, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, let's talk about her, because I think... Of course, the father died in the previous movie, I believe. He didn't die in this film. Actually, yeah, absolutely. He died in the 2018 version in Myris's house before it was set. Like, I think the theme of, like, grief was, like, portrayed good. Like, it was very few and far between. It only, like, made it, like, 2 really short scenes where it was the real focus of the movie. And
even
I'm glad they had it, but yeah, go for it, man.
No, I was just going to say, even that I would actually criticize, like, especially in 2018. I know you've already talked about it already. Like, the fact that, like, the husband and dad just died and they just completely just ignored it, basically. Even I thought when I watched it, as a huge Halloween fan, I was like, surely there's got to be more to this. I know in the new film they touched upon it a little bit. But I honestly feel like there should have been a bit more like, oh my God, this major character has just died, even though he's not major to the story. In the character's life, he is a major character, and he's just been murdered. And I did feel like that bit was quite pushed under the rug.
Yeah,
but maybe that's just
there was a moment later in the film where like Laurie gives a speech, because I did make a note of it and I really want to. Okay, so something I had noticed was that Andy had kind of been put to the side of the story in the movie, and with the little discourse saying that she stayed at the hospital with her family, that was pretty much it. Like to do with like the grief and stuff in terms of like killing Myers plotline. But she does eventually return, which is nice. But at that point, it feels like it had been built up to be bigger than her. So to have her be the one to take control and say like a heroic bit of dialogue felt out of place. And it was also horribly directed and paced, not doing the actress any favors. I assume it had something to do with like avenging her father. The whole point of her being there. But again, it didn't tip the balance back from this is a big situation to this is a situation for me and my family. And the reason why that line from Andy felt so cold for me and pointless is perhaps because all these new characters have their own stories, and it makes Laurie and her family stories feel less impactful because they're not unique, which is like a bummer, because we're all definitely here to see what Laurie does, which in this film is like little to nothing. And Jamie Lee Curtis is rather wasted. But I guarantee this will be rectified in the next film, as it's clearly building up for a final showdown between the pair, as per the synopsis for Halloween Ends 2. But yeah, like it just, the introduction to all these new stories, and of course the doctor like telling Myers where to go, it just completely falls flat, and it doesn't have the same intensity as the previous films do, in my opinion. And it just like doesn't give like the character of Andy much really going for her, because she's like the victim, she's the daughter of a victim, but so is everyone else. So why is she suddenly the one taking control of the situation? Why is she the focus? Like the whole movie sets up, oh, this is huge, we have to get the whole community together, and then it's just her quickly taking control. And I don't think it was written well in the slightest, though I do love the actress because she is beautiful. But yeah, I've spoken about that before. What do you guys
Simp.
Don't deny you're the same, both of you. Yeah, she's gorgeous. But did it have less of an impact for you with like the dad and the grief and stuff, Dom?
It's difficult because I mean I do see what they were going for in terms of representing the grief, the fatherly loss and everything, but at the same time it was still just a bit difficult, as you say, because there was so many concurrent stories in this whole community spirit. Michael Myers has wronged us, evil dies today, etc. It felt a bit difficult to get incredibly invested when you're expected to get invested in all these people's plights at once.
Yeah, because I watched Eternals today. Actually, I'm not sure about if you guys have seen it, but Eternals is very similar because there's like 9 Eternals or whatever, and you have to have a bit of screen time for them all to kind of get used to them. And this film is absolutely the same. And again, it kind of feeds into my criticism earlier that it just gets convoluted, it just gets confusing, like trying to keep following on with all these characters. But Eternals surprisingly does it really well, in my opinion, which isn't a common praise for that film because some people see it as a negative because they don't agree. They think it's a bit of a mess as well. But Eternals does like good groundwork to establish the characters. This doesn't. It's just like, oh, this person is called this, and he is the this to this. And then it goes on to the next person. And then after the threat starts, we just go on to an adventure with all of them in some really random locations, and we're just supposed to get behind them. And I just think, no.
That's literally the opening diner scene. They were just, we had, what was it, Tommy? He was like pointing at random members of the audience and being like, hey, you, victim, there, victim, there, victim. And explaining the quick bias for everyone. And it was just like, well, character introductions, thank you. I think the only one that really resonated with me with Marion, because she obviously is a legacy character. So, yeah, it's interesting, but ultimately...
this film does it a lot, I think, like trying to establish like previous things, because what this film did a lot was like try to establish the history of the franchise. I guess it's like trying to get new people up to date with what's going on. The thing is, it's in the middle of a trilogy, so surely if you're watching this film, you'd have seen the previous ones to kind of get up to date. So I don't think like to cram an introductory like essence into the second part is something I don't personally need. And I don't think we need that at all, but this film seems to be doing that, and I don't know why, because it says, oh, this character is this, and this happens, and like the police officers like say in Chibnall Bad's level exposition, and this happens, this happens, this happens, and I just think, yes, we know, we don't need to know this. Tell him off screen or whatever. Just imply that you said it to him. But yeah, Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
That was the divergence.
Back to it.
Yeah, I knew this was going to happen. Right. I said there's an awesome bit of cinematography. After Mars murdered the fire officer in the cellar with the median close-up of his face slanted while the floorboards above him are on fire. How the fire is around him at that point, but not actually affecting him, shows him as like a force that even the fire won't reckon with. It doesn't show the fire like on the surface, on the ground that he's on, but it implies that he's got like a spiral of fire around him and it's like not touching him. It's just like he is the presence in that room. And I thought that was fantastic because, of course, the room is on fire, but you don't see it. It's just him. So I thought that was particularly impressive. Any standout moments for you guys in like the burning house scene sequence?
Well, I just the way he gutted the firefighters, it was absolutely, well, it was quite magnificent, not gonna lie.
Yeah,
the way he just like took the pickaxe and just slammed it into one of them, and then he took a chainsaw of the other, then just
Yeah.
It's like a rotating thing for like cutting metal or something, which was terrific.
It was an excellent systematic way of murder. That's what Michael Myers is at his best, when he's just doing blunt killing mercilessly.
And honestly, other than the first jump scare, I think that was the best sequence for the murders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, talking about horror films makes you sound like a complete psychopath. You know that moment where X murders X? That was great, wasn't it? Disclaimer, we're not psychopaths, we're just complimenting how it was made.
I mean, have you seen the channel Dead Meat?
Films.
Have you seen the channel Dead Meat?
No.
Amazing horror YouTuber who does kill counts of horror movies. And at the end, he always gives an award for the best kill in the movie. So, I mean, if we're being psychotic or whatever, then I think giving awards is probably another level above.
Yeah, he went to film school probably just to do that on YouTube. Like, incredible.
Really
so
good,
that's hey, I can imagine. But again, unlike Matt said earlier, I hate horror. As in,
you hate horror. Oh, you hate it.
I hate good horror.
Oh yeah.
And by that I mean I hate being scared and jump scares.
Oh, I see.
Jump scares get to me absolutely. and like not so much the gory stuff, I think, oh crap, but that doesn't scare me as much as jump scares do, because I like get pulled into it because it's like the tension is rising and you know there's going to be a jump scare, but it always affects me. And I know some people jump scares are a bit cheap, but not for me because they just petrify me. How about you guys? Do you find the horror or the jump scares more horrific, like scary? Matt? Matt
I feel like since I grew up watching horror films at quite a shockingly young age, I'm so like numb to all horror. Whereas jump scares are the only things which might get me from time to time. So I prefer the jump scares personally, just because every aspect of horror, I feel like I absorbed at such a young age that I'm so used to it now. Whereas jump scares are made to shock you. So when they do get me, I do appreciate them more.
Yeah, so you think like the psychological horror stuff is a bit cheap, maybe? Like that doesn't affect you?
Potentially, yeah. I guess since like my favorite franchise of all time is like the Saw films, and that's obviously very psychological. So I'm so like used to it now, and I love those sort of films. Like, they're my favorite sort of horrors because they're more like, they're not like a ghost is trying to kill someone. They're more like real life shit, which like people could be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A
bit more grounded, realistic. Yeah. How about you?
So, yeah.
I'm a big fan of horror in general, but jump scares are the one thing that can still like get me. I really don't like them. Even in like more recent ones, in those like the Conjuring movies, those can really freak me out, and I don't like it. I prefer just straight up gore in front of my face than to have a solid jump scare.
Yeah. I'm not the only one, yes. But there was a moment about the gore in this film, and I think it is a very gory film, probably the goriest Halloween film I've seen so far. But there was a moment where, again, it was the light scene where she has that light like put through her neck, and I was like, I know this is coming, but then when it does, I just squealed a bit because I was like, holy crap, he actually did it, and it was horrific. And of course she comes back to life or whatever, she doesn't die, and I just think, oh, that's a bit shit now. But this still is impactful. Like before, I still felt the impact of that, and it was really bad. And you know the scene where the guy in the back of the car gets a knife through his eye? That was horrible.
Yeah.
That was horrible. Not so much the next moment where the woman shoots herself in the head because of the door car, but the car of the door. No, the door of the car. Door of the car. That was just... We won't talk about that. But a bit of continuity in that scene. Well, first of all, the woman in the nurse costume was moderately good looking. But it's the scene she's in with her partner as they go out to the car. Oh no, I forgot my stethoscope. I must go back. I was just astonished.
Cringe.
I was just embarrassed to watch that. And it's like such a common low cliche of horror. I was just wanting something more innovative. And speaking of innovative, it did cleverly subvert my expectations when the children played the prank on Big and Little John, the gay couple in the old Myers house. It felt very reminiscent of 1978's Halloween, so I assumed it was like a throwback because a similar scene does happen in that. Like Laurie goes around people's houses saying, "Oh, help me," and these kids do the same. But it turns out to be like a prank, and it turned out to be a prank, and it had flipped it on its head, which I felt was really clever. But yeah, a little bit of continuity I didn't grasp was the knife that Andy gave Laurie on her pillow in the hospital. Where did it go? Like she put it on her pillow for her to use when she came back to, activity, whatever, like back from her coma or whatever. But then when we see her first wake up, the mother is there and the knife is not there. And then we get like the bloody clothes. And I assumed the knife was hidden in there because she did wrap it up in something. So it was visible and it was the same color. It was red. So I assumed maybe the mother accidentally dumped it, but why it would be on the chair is another reason. But then even then, we don't see the knife at all. And I just think that was waste and a bit of continuity error, perhaps. Like, where did it go? Did you guys notice?
No, I didn't notice. Yeah, I don't either.
Fair enough, but again, it's a bit of continuity. It's really noticeable for me because, like, the red, it's wrapped up in red, like a jumper or something, and then it's like against the harsh white background, and I just think that's very visible. And then in the next scene, it's just not there, and I think, where the hell did that go? But yeah, I'll be honest, there were a few problems with the first act. The positives absolutely outweigh the negatives. And by the 20-minute mark, when Myers walks out of the burning house, I was like, damn, this is again up there with the 1978 original film, alongside the 2018 version, which I do like a lot. And I have read up some reviews retrospectively, and people's problems usually lie with the second and third acts. Did you guys notice any noticeable change in quality throughout the film when it went from good to bad, or vice versa?
Oh, yeah. I personally did. After the first act, it just kind of devolved into more... It became a bit more predictable. I was finding myself feeling a little just second-guessing all the characters' actions and how their behavior was going to end up with them killed. A lot of the kills were easy to predict. It just felt a bit like everybody had just gone stupid in a lot of the second to third act.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the whole thing with the mental patient. That was
what was that about?
That was one of the stupidest sequences I've seen in a post-2000s horror movie. I'm not going to lie.
This is where I have to disagree. First of all, I agree with you that it was a bit stupid in terms of rallying up everyone in the hospital. But I think it's something that we haven't seen before. I haven't personally seen in such a franchise before. And maybe that is because it's so egregiously bad that I just don't understand, but you guys do as horror film fans. But I personally really liked how they hounded this guy. Well, of course I don't like how they handled it, but how they, again, it's a matter of praising the film as it was made. And first of all, this whole sequence wasn't well made personally, because it had some slow motion, which first of all worked in some instances when they're actually bashing against the door and we see this guy, this mental asylum guy, not asylum, but just mental patient, slowly devolving and going towards the window. I thought that was really upsetting. Yeah. But the whole rallying up the crowds was a bit cringe, and then running after him, I do agree, it was a bit naff. But then the actual bashing through the windows, and then we see the mother's reaction, it's not him, and it's really sucks you dry. That no sexual connotations there, but it sucks you dry. But it does. It's it really plays at my heart personally. And then when he does eventually go out of the window, I was just I was actually welling up with tears. I was that was good. And I was just upset. And then I was just waiting for someone to touch him. And then he just bursts back to life, even though he's in 3 parts. And I was I wouldn't put the movie past that. But yeah, what did you guys fancy about the whole sequence?
I think what ruined it for me was, and I'm again big fan of the old films. I liked in the old films where I think it was maybe Halloween 5, the whole sort of town comes together and they're right, we'll kill Michael Myers together. So I liked the concept that they were doing it for this one, but the Evil Dies Tonight thing I just found so unbelievably cringe. It just I liked the idea of it, let's work together on this, but they just killed it with that quote over and over again. It was like a cult. I was like, what are you guys saying? This is just weird. Shut up and just kill him.
It was just very, it was... It was so on the nose as well. It's just evil dies tonight, and then at the end of it, it's just he's turning us into monsters. We're becoming the evil, etc. It's just that's a bit of a cliche. That is very much textbook. What's the greatest evil in the universe? It turns out it's man, etc. I just thought that the whole sequence was just ridiculous. Not only because as well. The mental patient himself is far smaller than Myers. Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
I mean, even though it has been 20, 30 years, there were records of, how Michael and what he looked like. People didn't know. He was arrested. They wouldn't know that he's a big guy. This guy was very small. Did he lose a foot in the mental institution or what? I don't know. It just seemed an unbelievable leap in logic to assume that this small, timid mental patient who's clearly just escaped and doesn't know what to do with himself was a psychotic killer. And it just, I feel they were trying to say, I feel like they were trying to do something to make a statement about mental health and all that and how patients can be perceived, but they really undermined it by, having a patient be mistaken for Michael Bloody Myers. When it just does not work in any fundamental level. if you even think about it for longer than a minute, because there's no way in hell they should have fought. And also, as well as that, he was running. Michael doesn't really run. Michael's always and he was
limping as well, I think. Yeah, but again, the scrutiny thing, because I had like a thought about this instantly after watching it, and I think you touched upon it there about like it being on the news and like he was in prison. So like the 2018 version, we see him in prison, but we don't see his face. But I was just thinking, the mugshot must have existed, and it would have been put on TV. Again, we wouldn't have seen it on TV because we don't want to see his face, but we know. Well, we assume that the mugshot was taken, it would be put on TV, so these people wouldn't know what he looks like. And I guess I could see the similarity with like the grey hair, the man in his 60s motif. But again, like as you said, he's far smaller, he's far less intimidating, and what even caused it, because it was very like abrupt on what
just random
the motivation was. Yeah,
saw a suspicious looking guy and they just thought, that's him. Let's get him.
Yeah, there's no like, who even said it first? Like, I just thought, because it was like that nice moment, with like the mother and Laurie in the hospital room, and then all of a sudden they're just going towards Myers. But the thing is, I find it really weird because I don't think the mother caught a glimpse of the guy who was supposedly Myers until they actually got upstairs, and then she kind of puts her hand around the door saying, I'm not going to hurt you. And I think that was the first time she actually saw him. But as she was running after him with like the crowd and stuff, and as she was being pushed around the corridors, she's still saying in that moment it's not him. But then how did she know it's not him? Because she's not seen him. And I just think that's another bit of continuity. How does she not know that it's him? She hasn't seen him, and we haven't even seen him by that point. No. It's really weird.
And as well as that, she locked him in that little room. What was the gain from that? Where was that going? Because she trapped him, essentially.
Go nowhere. Yeah, he can go nowhere from that.
Yeah, he can go nowhere. She locks both sides of the door, of the corridor. If she had left the other side open, maybe he would have had a chance. Would have been dicey. But she locks both sides, so he was effectively trapped. I can't remember if there was another room there or not, but... Yeah, there was nowhere for him to go. So I don't know what her game plan was. Was she just going to try and talk at them? Because they were clearly not going to listen.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's just so much wrong with this film. And the more I just think about it and the more you talk about it, I just think, does anything actually make sense if you just like think about it for 1 second? And I guess you can just say, with horror and like murdering movies, you have to suspend disbelief and whatever. And with the Halloween franchise, you kind of do a lot, because how does Myers survive? But just like plot logic, you can kind of get away with it with the lead character because it's like that era shroud of mystery with him. But as for just events that can happen in real life, because the films do make an attempt to be like put him in realistic scenarios, because you have to root for the human characters who are being murdered. You want them to survive, of course.
Yeah.
You have to feel some connection. But to do that, you have to put them in realistic scenarios, and this film tries to do that, and it does. The franchise does. But then it tries to be too clever for its own good, and it makes some questionable decisions. And I think this film, again, I said it in my review, and I'll say in my conclusion later, I think there's an almighty drop-off, and this is the biggest drop-off I've seen between two movies, between Halloween 2018, which I loved, and Halloween Kills, because I loved one, disliked the other, and I just thought, what a shame, because I was really looking forward to this, because the 2018 one was directed really well, it was written really well, and then I think this film was written by the same guy who did the 2018 version, but with a different co-writer. And I just think, sack and bin off the co-writer. Because I was looking at Wikipedia the other day, actually, and I just found it like fascinating. And it was like, why that every single movie has like a different writer. Like the showrunner or whatever you could say, the movie executive producer. And the writer, there's always a constant with whoever's making and directing the film. But then they always have a different co-writer on every time. And I just think, where's the consistency? There's too many random ideas being thrown in here. And this film is really bad in that respect, because I think it could have been more concise. And for an hour 45 film, I think it tries to do too much, I guess. Like, it throws a lot of ideas in, but it goes nowhere with it. And I think you could have cut some of those out and made it like hour 20. But I touched upon it then. The car scene. Again, a bit of continuity. Let's see if you noticed it. The guy who gets stabbed in the eye. I want to die. Right, so I'm going to try and find this. No, okay, so another bit of ropey continuity is when I believe his name is Marcus climbs over into the driver's seat, and in the very next shot, he's back in the back seat trying to get the back door open. That's a lot of backs, and that's a lot of crap. Like, you can forgive one continuity error, but not when there's about 5. And this film has a lot of continuity errors. And like in a sequence where you already have like the door slam and shoot her in the head, which is awful, you also have continuity errors where he goes into the front seat, but then he's not in the front seat, and then he gets stabbed in the back seat. And I just thought, why?
Now you've said that, yeah. Now you've said that, I can
yeah. Nah, yeah. You had to bring it up, but yeah.
I've got to mention it, even if they are nitpicks, but continuity shouldn't be a nitpick. Like, a film's got to be clear, and it's got to go from one place to another. So it can't go from one place to the next place and then go back to the other place for no logical reason. You get me? Like, it's bad, but that whole car scene, dreadful. Any other comments about that sequence? Because there's a lot to really unpack about it in terms of its badness and like the park scene.
I liked how they implied, obviously we never saw it, that Michael, as dark as it sounds, that he killed the kid. Just because from what we've seen of Michael Myers, he's always the guy that goes to the babysitters. He never attacks the kids, even though, the kids were being, let's be honest, not very nice. I did like how it showed that Michael is no mercy, has no recognition of, young life, old life. He just sort of just kills anyone. So I did kind of like that concept, whether it actually happened or not, whether the kid escaped, whatever.
That's the thing.
I kind of liked how they did that.
It's a bit odd because it kind of contradicts what was earlier established in the franchise that Michael doesn't really kill kids. So
yeah, exactly.
It is an interesting way to show that he is not black and white. He is not like absolutely predictable. If he wants to kill a little nuisance, then he will. And those kids were nuisances.
But yeah, this is the moment when skimming through the film for a second time to make notes that I stopped to watch Doctor Who. And the Doctor Who episode was so bad that I got depressed and gave up. So what you will hear from me next is just rambling, because I have no more notes, essentially, because I just got fed up last night on Sunday night because, yeah.
It's a bad night.
It was a bad night. So basically all I had to say really was hospital scene I liked. The man jumping out the window, and then also the final scene, which I thought was dreadful, because what you had, and again it's to do with continuity, this film is just continuity error riddled. So Michael Myers is outside his original house, correct? Like in this final sequence when he's killing all the community outside his own house, and then we get cutaways to Laurie's daughter. Oh, I've forgotten her name, but she's on like the porch with her mother and whatever. And then in one sequence, we have these brutal murders, which are supposedly going right on in front of her. And then we get cutaways to the balcony, which is literally right there, but then they're not reacting to it. So what I thought, looking back at it, it was like a jump in time, but then that's me like adding something to it, like to try to justify why it's there, but it's not, because in one moment it's murders, and in the next moment they're right there, but they're not reacting. And I just think, establish a time jump or something, because this looks awful. What do you guys think? Did you guys notice that? Because it was so clear as day for me, and I had massive issues with it.
Matt?
No, I am here. I'm trying to recall everything.
Yeah, I was trying to do the same. Just buy for time, remember what happened.
Okay, so Michael goes outside to the mother, and then essentially he's surrounded, and then he gets beaten up. And then Michael Myers is put down to the ground, and he's being beaten, and he's supposedly dead.
Sorry.
Yeah, I get you now, yeah.
And then in between that, we go to like Michael is supposedly dead, and then they go onto the porch to sit down and regroup and like catch their breath. And then we get that one shot, and then we also get other shots of Michael then coming back to life and killing all the officers that have come round him. And then we get cutaways back to the porch where they're not reacting. And that was the issue I had, and it was terrible.
Yeah. Now you've said that, you feel like they'd one, hear the screams of, all the officers dying for one, especially since there was like gunshots and things as well. Admittedly, I won't lie, I did think that scene was awesome. Even though it's obviously very unrealistic. Take me back to, Tortured Miracle Day vibes. Just coming back to, like, not even dying, just like waking up, you know what I mean? That's what it reminded me of, and I thought that scene was incredible. But in terms of continuity, now you've said that, it was quite bad. That especially with the very, very end, when obviously she gets killed by Michael, you think surely you could have heard not only footsteps behind you, but all the other tens of 20, the officers dying right there and then.
Exactly.
Because it could have been very easy. Sorry, Dom, but it could have been very easy for like the film to end with him like how the 1978 version ended, with Michael there and then he's gone, and then that's the end of the film. Like he's gonna come back. But how we actually see at the end of this film him come back to life and him like really show off his presence and his murdering spree and his like life expectancy because he's not dead. I just thought that was really impressive. But again, the editing, that's why I said earlier, the story and how it was written in this little bit wasn't bad. It was just the editing on how it was put together, because it didn't do a good enough job at establishing like a time jump, which could have been put there in like the script, but it wasn't portrayed really well at all in the movie. So the first time I watched it, like normal, just watching to see what I thought, you know what, that was good, but the editing was shockingly bad. And the script and like always come back to life, I really liked, but then the cutaways I still had massive issues with. And then when I was skimming it, I was just like, this isn't a writing problem at all. This is absolutely an editing problem, as long as the script established there was like a time jump or something, which I interpreted it to be. But in the context of just watching it as it happens, at least I spied it, and I just thought, this is awful. I was laughing when this movie ended with like the monologue from Laurie that was weirdly like, what do you call it, charismatic and epic monologue, which you didn't need, considering she spent like 95% of the film in pain, but now she's just walking around delivering this epic speech to end up the movie. And then at the end of the movie, I was just there laughing. I was like, what the hell was that final 10 minutes? Just to wrap up the review, really, what do you guys think of like the final act?
It's a mess. After you, Matt.
I thought the kill sequence. Thank you. The kill sequence I thought was really good. Obviously, so unrealistic, so horror film cliche, if you will. But I liked how it portrayed Michael Myers once again as this human being who has supernatural abilities. He is a humanoid, but obviously supernatural, and he just can survive. That's the best way I can put it. He just won't die. So I liked that about it. I thought that would have just been so random, like you just get out of a hospital bed and then you just start doing this speech about evil. Just like if you were with your mates and you did that, they'd be like, "What the hell are you smoking?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I loved it. Obviously, the Halloween fan, but even I'll admit it was a bit like, "What the hell's going on?"
I'm just laughing again. Oh God, it's so dreadful. What do you think, Tom?
Oh God, it was a mess, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was crazy. It was ridiculous, and not in a good, fun way either. It was just like everything. The characters are doing stupid crap, and you're just watching with your head in your hands, wondering if anybody's any sense that can affect the plot. I mean, Laurie, yeah, sure, she's fine. She's always fine. She's always cool, but everyone around her is kind of like, okay. I mean, again, that final scene with the beating of Michael Myers was well executed until they just slowed down and stopped.
Yeah.
It's just like, what?
Yeah, he just gets up and kills them all.
Yeah, they opened him up for that. I mean, again, as well, there's a similar point where they're in the house and she stabs him with like the hoe and just takes his mask. Why would you do that? Why are you taunting Michael Myers when you just stab him through the throat?
To be fair, I did like the characterization of Myers in this movie, like how there's little moments where you can really expose Michael and the characters around him see his face, but we don't. I really love that, and how we saw the mask on the bottom, and they're taunting him. How'd you like that, Myers? How'd you like that? And then he walks up to his mask and then puts it back on, and he slaughters them all. I did like that. But I completely agree with you, Dom, that like everything around it was an absolute mess. But how they did the mask little bit, I did really enjoy it. Not like the taking off, but him not having it on and then going up to the mask and then slaughtering them all. Like, this is my trademark. This is, when I have this on, I mean business. That's the vibe I got.
Yeah.
But other than that, I completely agree. So, Matt, I am looking forward to your 5-star review next.
Oh, God.
God, if it's a 5-star, then fair play. But I will have to respectfully disagree. So, is there anything you guys want to say or add about the review, about the movie in the review, before we go on to the audience interaction?
Nah, I'm done.
Just to finish off then. Just to finish off then. Obviously, it's kind of related to what you just said, actually. I liked the bit with the mask, obviously, as well. It kind of symbolised that the mask has something to do with Michael's abilities. Because if you remember in the very first film, when they go to give Michael his mask, when he's at the asylum, obviously that's when all the dogs start kicking off, all the patients start going crazy. So it kind of signifies that there is some relation between him and his mask. But I'm also hoping that doesn't lead into the third film, it being like the source of his powers and stuff, because I like how Michael Myers is just a serial killer and he's just somehow unstoppable. In the old films, if you watch them, you'll see that they go into detail about the reason why he's invincible. It's because he's part of some like satanic cult or whatever, which is interesting, but it's a bit like outdated now. So I really like that as well. I love the music. Obviously, you can't diss the Halloween music. It's, you know, the iconic. Probably there's nothing beats it. So I liked how that started playing, and as he put the mask on, he was just like, yeah, you know, this means business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, I agree. That was a positive. Dom's just wanting to kill himself right now because he just thought about this film for too long. It's like, get me out of this call.
Enough of that.
I want to go on something else. Yeah.
Oh, God. That was, I mean, when you think about it, really, not much really happened in that 2-hour-long movie.
I think more happened in this recording than in the actual movie.
It's fair.
Probably.
Honestly, probably. So, on that note, moving on to the audience interaction section. So, again, we only got one tweet on Twitter, and for people on Twitter, the context is that I have been locked out of the Twitter account, so I'm going to create a new account. So, if you guys do want to follow that, the link will be in the description. I'm going to set that up after this recording or tomorrow. But on the old account, I did put out a tweet asking for people's opinions. And the only one who replied was Matt Stokes. You, Matt.
Yeah.
And you said, can't wait for this one. I see why people may not like it, but as a long-term fan, I thought it was brilliant.
Do you still think it was brilliant, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah, don't give in to peer pressure. Don't give in to peer pressure.
I love Halloween. I love how it's back, to be honest with you. So that's it. You know, no horror film can just come back out of nowhere and, you know, do it relatively well. Maybe not in the second film, you know, in the first Halloween anyway.
I respect a man of courage of his convictions.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be very easy for him just to drop his score by like 2 points after this like abomination of a review, like just saying, oh, this was bad, wasn't it? But yeah, fair enough, mate. So on Letterboxd, again, not many people that I follow have logged this film on Letterboxd. It's surprisingly quite popular. We're not like extremely popular, but it's decent reviews. Jack Byrne gave it a 3.5 star. Helen gave it a 2.5 star. Matt Whelan, also known as Matt Hall, gave it a 3 star. And Bigfoot Anon gave it a 3 star. I do want to read out Helen's short review, because it is the shortest review of the lot, and I don't want this section to go on for too long as it has done in the past. And Helen said, I've been avoiding lengthy reviews, but seen bits and pieces of scathing hate, so I went into the cinema not expecting much, but determined to have a good time anyway. The first 30 minutes or so I genuinely really enjoyed and was wondering what all the moaning was about, and I agree. I think I mentioned it earlier, I really liked the first 20 minutes, but then she went on to say, and then the rest happened. I still had a laugh, well laughing at it, and it's bloody cringe-inducing dialogue though. So yeah, a lot of cringe-inducing dialogue, and she, of course, gave it a 2.5. And I think we can all agree, like we mentioned earlier, there was definitely a shift in quality around the second act. Okay, so as for our conclusions and scores, Dom, do you want to go first with your conclusion, if you have one, and a final score out of 5 stars?
Well, yeah, I would say this is just it's a step down from the prior entry. Well, I say prior entries, really. You have the classic in the 70s, and then you have the triumphant revival in the 2018 version, and then this happened, and it just kind of did not match up to either of those, and in fact may have put Halloween Ends on a bit of a back foot. So, it's a shame how this has panned out, but I'm not entirely looking forward to the next and final segment if this is how it's going to be. So I'm going to say 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Okay, I shall put that into the average calculator alongside mine, because of course I know my own score. It'd be a bit daft if I didn't. So that is Dom's score. Matt, what about you?
Here we go. So I actually agree with you. A step down from the last film. I think the last film was like revolutionary in reviving the horror genre, which I think is desperately needed. I think the last time horror made a real impact was The Conjuring, Insidious, Sinister Days, so like 2012, 2013. So unfortunately, it didn't have the same impact as it did back then. However, I feel like Halloween has taken the brave steps forward of trying to revive the horror genre for what it is, trying to make a difference, doing things which are a bit more braver, as I would prefer being a maverick. So I liked it, but I completely understand why people don't agree as much as me. So on that note, I will give it a 3.6.
3.6? Would you like to put it down to a 3.5? Which one, full star?
No, I'll do 3.5.
3.5, okay, if that's a 3.5. So that comes to an average score of 2.33. So that's a weird score, but I'll round it up to 2.5 average. I kind of just spoiled my score there. I gave it a 1.5 star. So it does come to an average of 2.3 or 2.5 if you do average it up. My review goes along the lines of, that was laughably bad. Characters that were introduced with histories which got me confused because they were paired with old characters with established histories, and some of the introduced characters had elderly relatives alive, some didn't, and some had or were the children of the knights. So that got really convoluted. It didn't help that a lot of the men we were following looked awfully similar too. Again, these things I've already said. Continuity errors are plenty, cliches and stupid decisions that go hand in hand, and an ending that was awfully scripted and or edited, rendering the film even more illogical, but the ending was absolutely the most egregious. The only redeeming things, some decent scares, the whole mentally ill man being hounded to death, which was really sad, and the core portrayal of Michael Myers. And I wrapped it up with a question. I said, is there a bigger drop-off between franchise movies, between the Halloween 2018 film and Halloween Kills? And I did get a reply to that. Helen, who I did read out the review, she said yes, the original 1978 to the 1981 film. Again, I haven't seen the 1981 film, so yeah, I can't really judge. So I can ask you guys that same question. I'm going to watch the franchise. So the question is, what's the bigger drop-off? Halloween 1978 to 1981 or Halloween 2018 to Halloween Kills?
2018 to Halloween Kills, obviously.
Cool.
For me, anyway.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, it pains me because I was really behind the director and the script of Halloween 18 version, because I thought, I gave it 4.5 stars. I was really impressed with it, and I thought it was even better than the original, actually, which may be a bit controversial to some. But then this just... it was really disappointing. And again, like Dom, you said, if the next film is anything like this and not like a return to form, then it's going to be like another reboot in about 10 years time from another director, and we're going to go through this entire process again, which is going to be annoying. Because after watching the 2018, I was like, you know what, this trilogy is going to go well, and this is going to be the definitive Halloween trilogy. And then this came out, and I just thought, we're not getting that definitive excellent trilogy, are we? And that's unfortunately ringing true. But we'll see how the 22 version goes, Halloween Ends. you guys can both come on for that again. If Dom, you really want to, if you haven't just ended it all after this. The more you think about it, it's just like, have you heard the tone in his voice? It's just like slowly going down because as the review goes on, he just becomes more depressed about this. Yeah,
it's just not great, mate. It's just not great.
Yeah. Oh, it's unfortunate, but yeah, that wraps up today's episode. Thank you both for coming on.
I hope we have entertained you.
See you guys next time. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.